The situation is very dear. If Iran is struck, there is a very good chance, first of all, it will be unanimous within the Muslim community. I grew up in a country which is, I would not say invaded, it wouldn't be politically correct with it, but which has a tremendous population of Muslims, of so-called French Muslims. And so if such a situation were to take place, and the Israelis have been itching to eradicate all the nuclear plants that are hidden underground in Iran, the same way they did in Syria in 1980, that would be a perfect pretext. And this would unquestionably rally every single Muslim nation and organizations together to counterattack one way or the other. And like World War One, where the game of political and geopolitical alliances played a crucial role in starting World War One, the same thing will happen yet again in these eras. It's not unrealistic. I'll conclude simply by bringing to your attention Marie-Julie Janis and Reverend Father Michel Rodrigue, who both of them have brought forth this possibility. And this is quite extraordinary. Do we have time? I would only need 2 minutes. With Marie-Julie Janis, she clearly stated in a time at the end of the 19th century when such predictions were completely unrealistic, that the day will come when first and foremost there would be geopolitical tensions between England, Palestine, and Persia. Those names were used at the time, for indeed there was no such country yet in 1870 of Israel. They considered it Palestine. And Iran did not exist. It was known as Persia. The England was mentioned as being, there would be tension between England, Palestine, and Iran, and Persia rather. At the time when England was mentioned, what was meant in the French language were the Anglo-Saxons. That means also the Canadians, the Americans, and so on and so forth. So what's more, what gives this tremendous credibility and what is ever so concerning is that Marie-Julie Janis, who not only was supported openly by His Holiness Pope Leo XIII and later by His Holiness Pope Pius XII, also mentioned such extraordinary events such as the rise of the Islamic consortium alliance of sort that would unite with far Eastern European, the Russians. No? And to give yet more credibility, this would take place when Europe, and particularly France, would be overtaken by a massive immigration from the Middle East and Muslim nations in Africa, when civil unrest in France would start to take place, when there would be major ecclesiastical reforms within the Roman Catholic and Apostolic Church that would turn later the Catholic Church to become, quote unquote, unrecognizable.
Wow.
In accord with Father Michel, and I'll conclude with this simply, Father Michel, in the middle of this war that is taking place in Ukraine, when all the logic would lead to believe that if there is a third world war, it would come from there, remain firm in asserting that a third world war would start principally from Iran and from North Korea. Although the conflict in Eastern Europe will be a catalyst to something considerably bigger and unstoppable. Now, likewise, Father Michel Rodrigue, since the beginning of this year, has announced publicly, and the last time he did was in a video conference call, which I believe you were invited in, where he mentioned in September that October will be a first chapter of the announced tribulations. And here we are.